G'day champs, Bensome here. This is just a quick warning that this episode is not safe for work and probably inappropriate for kids. I realised mid-edit that if I were to bleep every swear word, then this finished piece would just sound like Morse code in some sections. Plus, it would have taken me another couple of hours to do, and this episode is late enough as it is. Perhaps just think of this episode as an up late or after hours version, in which case I hope you enjoy the very first episode of the Direct Misfire Late Show. Enjoy.
Yeah, direct misfire, aiming up hits. Bensome, Spoon, and Sellick are in the mix. Follow along, stay up to date. Comment, like, subscribe today.
Hello champs, and welcome once again to another Direct Misfire Missive. Joining me today, as always, is Spoon and Sellick, as well as special guest and fan favourite, Hugh, as we talk Clash of Kings Australia 2019. So pull up a seat, grab a drink, and let's get into it. Good evening, fellas. How are you all?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Fabulous.
Excellent.
Backed by popular demand, my friend.
Yes, indeed. Before we get any further, I've got something to ask you. I'm wanting to make a new army for Kings of War. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a little thing at the start of each episode, and once we have our selections cumulative from each episode at the end of the year, we'll have a sweet as army. So I'm going to say out three things here, and first one to yell out which choice and why is what we're going to go with for the army.
So we can't vote or something? Can we try to convince you?
No, you got to be the first one. Oh,
First
yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe you convince whoever's got the best why.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So this is going to be the basis of our army. We have either cloud giants that have been grounded and they're really angry about it, or lightning serpents from the other side of the planet, and lastly, half elf, half dwarves that are shunned by both the abyssal and vanilla dwarves. All right. So
Ooh.
It's too easy.
what have you got?
It's easily cloud giants that have been grounded and are angry about it.
Why?
A couple of reasons. First of all, have you ever met a giant that's angry? Like, that is scary as shit. Second of all, and it's something that I don't think many people would think about, is cloud giants are up in the sky, right? That's their thing.
Yeah.
So they're using very minuscule amount of oxygen. So they would be great swimmers. Big hands, they're like paddles, man.
Okay. What else have you got?
Solid
Spoon,
reasoning. I think the half elves, half dwarves are clearly the best option, because I think any gamer
Nonsense.
can relate to the whole idea of, not fitting in, because, let's face it, we're all nerds. Even half nerds like me, I half don't fit in every circle, which is, I shed a tear sometimes, but I get over it. But half dwarves, half dwarves, half elves would be slick as, because all you'd have to do is cut all the models in half so that they had dwarf legs and elf upper torsos,
Monstrous.
or vice versa, with like really long legs and really stupid dwarf torsos. And that army would just look so completely ridiculous.
Or
that,
maybe they're just like people because they're normal size now.
No. Otherwise, they're not half-half. They've got to be straight up. Like really stumpy arms and long legs, or vice versa. And so, if you can make that army look good, instant painting trophy. Bob's your uncle, Penny's your aunt. Just go home with all the prizes. Done.
And what do you think, Spoon?
I would go cloud giants, mainly because I'd like to know what adventures they'd go on when they're on the ground.
Okay. I kind of like cloud giants. I mean, you put a convincing argument, but...
you know what's better than cloud giants on the ground?
Half elf, half dwarves.
Cloud giants not on the ground. Like actual cloud giants.
Floating giants.
Yeah. Fucking cloud giants. Like, giants that all have their arms outstretched, and they all have flying, and you just pretend that they flap their arms. And that's how they get about.
All right, well, if everyone's gone cloud giants, I guess we've got to change the result to cloud giants. So that's going to be our basis for this army for this year. Cloud giants.
All right, I'm a bit disappointed, but maybe you could just make one unit of half dwarf, half elves.
That's something that we might be able to come to later. We'll see.
Allies.
God, I hope we do more than 2
entry.
episodes.
Yeah, that would be disappointing if that's all we did. All right, enough of that rubbish. Let's get on to what we've been doing for the last 2 months since our last recording.
Wow.
Spoon?
Painting. Getting ready for Cancon.
What are you painting? What were you painting?
What was I painting? I was painting my Archfiend. I got him pretty much done. I still got to do some freehand on his banner. And I finished off a Temptress. And I sort of started some Harlequins.
Okay.
That Archfiend is seriously beautiful, man. It is a sexy model indeed. I particularly like his big purple fart that's coming out from beneath him as he flies up into the air.
It's a big fart, that's for sure.
Who is the manufacturer of that miniature?
Bloodkeep Miniatures.
Right.
Pretty rad.
And what about you, Sellick?
Spears. So I had the elf spears to finish off before Cancon, so I had to get those over from Poland, I think, and then try and paint them all up in a month, trying to mix it around with work. We got them about 60-70% done, but they looked alright on the base.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, not much.
And Hugh?
I've been watching your updates as you painted my army, Bensome, which was pretty nice. Writing cunning army lists.
Just being a keen observer?
That's right. I've been liking all your Facebook posts of my army, shelling out a little bit of doshola from time to time to keep you motivated.
Yep.
And and looking forward to playing my elf dwarfs. Actually, I wish I was playing elf dwarfs now. Ratkin. I was playing next army project. While you paint your flying giants, you can paint my elf dwarfs.
Sure. So obviously that's what I've been doing. Getting your rats ready for Cancon. I think I was really happy with your demon spawn though.
Oh, he's sexy as.
Busted that out in 2 days, so pretty proud of that one.
Can photos be found of that guy on your Facebook page?
I think it's on the Direct Misfire page.
It is?
Excellent. He's got like this wicked like bone. He's like this goat demon kind of dude where he's all like shaggy and black mainly with all these creepy runes and stuff coming out from underneath him. He has a big badass scythe, but then he's also got a tail that sort of like the vertebrae like pokes out from underneath him that looks like a big evil bone wang.
It looks like the skins come off it. Yeah.
A bone wang.
Yeah.
I've heard it all now.
I've also been painted Sellick's Dragon, so you would have seen that on Twitter with the amazing eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
And my own army, which wasn't even an army when I started a couple of months ago, so I rebased a whole lot of goblins, painted a whole horde of goblins, mincer mob, mincers, rebased squigs and squig riders, and painted up a goblin blaster to go with it. I think that's everything. There's probably more. I can't see my army from here, so I'm not getting any reminders. And I've only just started my herd army again today.
Woo.
So hopefully that'll be completed by next year's Clash of Kings. That's the dream.
Well, at least you've started.
The Gentleman Beastmen.
That's right, the Gentleman Beastmen with all their fancy hats and whatnot.
Yeah, can't wait to see them.
We need an update on your challenge, though, Spoon. How are you going? What are we, day 32 of the challenge? Have you bought any miniatures yet?
0 miniatures purchased. Look at me go.
Impressive.
Fantastic.
1 month down.
There's a Blood Bowl tournament coming up, though. I'm not sure if you've got enough Blood Bowl miniatures, bro.
I've got enough.
I think he's got every miniature, doesn't he?
Pretty much.
He's got damn near every single Blood Bowl miniature out there, but I'm sure there's something he doesn't have.
Yeah, some star players.
Yep. As we were walking around Cancon, though, we had to keep you with the blinkers on there so you couldn't look at other miniatures.
Were you tempted?
Not really, because the only stall I had a proper look at was the Twisted one.
Right.
And I've got everything so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're like that popularized Netflix film that came out recently where you have to walk around blindfolded in case any like models jump out at you.
Okay. All right. Speaking of stalls and walking around places, Cancon. That was where the Clash of Kings Australia was held. Cancon's a big convention in the capital of Australia, in a giant tin shed, and it was sweltering. It was not much fun. So after the 7-8 hour drive from Melbourne to Canberra, we got to play 6 games of Kings of War.
It was much fun. It was as much fun as you could possibly have while sweating that much. Like,
was it like 43 inside? It was
pretty
I was dying.
So that's like 110 Fahrenheit on the drive up, and then the first day it was hot.
Yeah, I think we recorded 46, 47 while driving up.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was no good.
What the hell's that in Fahrenheit? I'm gonna look that up while you keep talking.
3,000.
I think it's 112. I think 46 around there. Hugh, you can validate that.
115 degrees Fahrenheit. You're welcome. Holy crap.
So yeah, it's pretty hot.
Yeah, that's like balls around your knees kind of bloody temperature, that is.
What?
It's not conducive to concentration and
they're
playing.
They're trying to escape from your central mass,
games.
so yeah.
No.
You know. You know how it happens. You guys are all 75, right?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of our games, just in summary, because they can be quite boring, these tournament roundups. So we'll start off with Sellick.
Okay.
How about you tell us about your army? What did you bring, and what game?
Okay, sure. So I took the elves that I'd been playing a fair bit. If you've been on UB, played with them quite a few times there, often by myself, because that's just how lonely I am. But I took a horde of archers with the Heart-Seeking Chant, troop of Palace Guard, so just my chaff there. Something that I'd been mixing up with is the Kindred Tall Spears with the Brew of Sharpness, so the +1 to hit. Some vanilla Forest Shamblers, a horde of those. A regiment of Stormwind Cav with the Caterpillar. And Drakon Riders with Vicious, so the Chant of Hate in a horde. A BSB just on foot with the loot. A Mounted Prince, vanilla. A Dragon Lord with the Staying Stone. And then my favourite, the Tree Herder. I took him with the Blade of Slashing and Weakness and Hex that I didn't use the whole tournament, and Madriga the Elf to finish off, just because that extra piercing, she was delicious.
I'm really all over your Dragon Rider, man. If you can imagine the Japanese style dragon, so the long skinny one similar to the Chinese dragon, only with feet and arms, with this wicked like Japanese samurai dude on top of him, and then smaller versions of that for the Drakon Riders. Man, those units are looking mint.
And that's a samurai rider. He's so chill. He just like cross-legged and sword's not even out. He knows that the dragon's going to do all the work.
Yeah, he doesn't need it.
He'd have too many attacks if he had his sword out. So that's fine. So I'm just going to whip through this because I know that we've got 4 other people. So in my first round, I had Peter Lee.
And this is Invade?
It was Invade. So we took on Peter Lee. He had Twilight Kin. Probably the toughest list that I played over the weekend. But unfortunately, he took a very strong list. But what made it worse was he was just such a lovely guy. And I hate that combination.
Yeah, that sucks.
So he's slowly taken all my models off the table with this big smile, and he's apologetic because I'm rolling like a muppet.
And you were feeling great about it.
I was feeling great about it, and I was like going to buy him a beer at the end of it. I don't know what was happening. But in the end, I lost that one 18-3, I think it was. So we were using, for those that don't know, what's the tournament pack? Blackjack. That's it. Love it. So yeah, 18-3. I ended up going down with that one. And then round 2, we've travelled a collective 14 hours to get there, and I draw Mr. Spoon. So I'll go in a little bit more detail on this one.
Okay.
So Spoon sort of marched most of his units across into charge range. And knowing that, he should have been able to last at least one round of combat and then set up some flanks. It didn't quite work that way. I sort of charged across
straight through me
and just took his models off.
Just kept going.
And then rolled quite well for the nerves. So made it a little bit worse. Who was your big guy that we got the unlucky 6/6 on?
My Archfiend.
Yeah,
that was shattering.
So his Archfiend was behind it all, so I couldn't actually get his Archfiend. So I just took a couple of shots on. I don't know how many wounds I ended up knocking off him.
3.
There you go. And so he had a choice. He could have charged about 3 or 4 different options, including my Archer Horde. However, I 6/6'd it, and he just stood there and then got charged by my spears.
I watched all his army burn.
Yeah, it was. He clawed it back in the last couple of rounds, but in the end, it was a 19-2 win for me, and my first win of Cancon. After that, I played Trevor Husband, and ended up... That was a tight game, so it went back and forth a little bit.
Just to step back,
Basilean.
round 2 was Plunder, round 3 is Dominate.
Okay, thank you. I don't have all the rounds here. But yeah, Trevor played really well. His little flying angels were just unstoppable pretty much, and I just couldn't take enough wounds to get them off the table, and by the end, I think it was round 4 or 5, they were just starting to get the Dyson out to clean me up. So ended up going down on that one, 14-7, so it was pretty close, but still a loss. And then I went home after that, back to the hotel.
Back to the bar.
Back to the bar to quietly contemplate my life. So I finished day one with 1 win and 2 losses. Not the best start, but
Could be worse.
yeah, that's it.
So, that was Sellick's day one. Hugh, tell us about your misadventures, or adventures depending, I don't know.
Oh, my adventures? Okay, sure, no worries. I was playing, of course, the mighty Ratkin. So I had taken... I'll go as I go through my list, I'll give you a little comment about each unit, because that'll give you a better idea of how they went over the tournament.
Running comments, okay.
Oh, shit. Pardon me. Okay.
That good, huh?
Yep. Love Ratkin. So... I took the formation, which involves 2 regiments and a horde of simple warriors, and that's the Labrats formation.
Yep.
It's also got a enforcer on there. So I took the Dragon Shard shield on the horde of warriors, and generally these guys performed pretty well over the course of the tournament. Like in my I did have 3 practice games because me and a couple of the other lads went down for a 3-game tournament. Run by a fantastic Mike Crossman a few weeks beforehand. So I had run this army, or something very similar to it, in those 3 games. And I found that the regen you get from the units just to be 3/5 of fucking useless, you know? Like
so that Labrats formation gives them regen?
It does. It gives all the hordes, the horde, both the regiments and the Udal enforcer guy regen. And I found it to be just crap because every time they got hit by anything, they just died. So it didn't even matter that they had regen. Not the case in this tournament. Actually, there was quite a lot of occasions I found where, particularly the little regiments and the horde, if you can match them up against other relatively weak things on the flanks that take a few rounds to get through, that regen was actually super handy. So I definitely think about taking them again. They were pretty good. Mm-hmm. And old mate on his Fleabag with the Diadem of Dragonkind was just a boss all the way through, running around flaming dudes. He's just
good
fantastic.
Staple.
He survived, I think, every single game, which is just insane because he's so quick, so useful. Love him.
Yep.
90 points, well spent. Shock troops, horde of those bros with the Staying Stone. They're very, hit and miss. Some games they're fantastic. Some games they just get stomped because, they are that big magnet unit. But I think they're pretty useful overall because you kind of need a unit in Ratkin that can actually hit fairly hard because none of the other very few of their own units actually do. So still an important unit. We've got a horde of black with the Makwar's Potion of the Caterpillar. Mm-hmm. So this is my 3rd horde, and as anyone knows who plays a horde army, having heaps of hordes, very problematic from trying to maneuver around the terrain and what have you. So these guys are the ones that get plonked behind the forest, walk into said forest, and then ensnare anyone who comes in and tries to attack them. So they're just fucking awesome.
And gives them a bit of cover as well, because they're lower defense.
That's exactly right. And they're just total noob magnets. Like, if anyone throws reasonable number of attacks at them over the course of the game, or is forced to because they're staying on an objective or what have you, fucking love it. Just like, yep, you can hit on 6s there, bro. Good luck. Love them. Claw shots, trip of 5 of those bros. Kind of crap. 90 points of do not very much. Mm-hmm. But they do pop a wound here and there when you kind of really need it. Especially if your other shooting units are taken off, they can be handy to force a very long-ranged 36 inches away check, which is kind of handy. But also they tend to be a magnet for big flying things and stuff. And that's not so bad because if the big flying thing's taking out your horde of archers like in Sellick's army, that sucks. But if they're going for a 90-point troop for a couple of turns, actually not so bad. Like you can kind of deal with that. Like, take them out of the game for a while. And often it's a mistake to go after them. So I found them to be okay. Vermintide, regiment of 3. Why does it say 3 in Army Builder anyway?
It's because they're like large infantry, and so they follow that footprint, so it's like 3 swarms.
It's meant to be 3 bases if you're like some sort of non-multi-basing noob.
That's
with
right.
you. So regiment of those pelicans, they do 3/5 of fuck all, but they get in the way sometimes, and that's awesome. Hackpaws, regiment of them, they were very hit and miss. They're super glass cannoneer. You fart in their general direction, they run away, but they can occasionally hit pretty hard and just be a threat. Go 18 inches upper flank and then do a nimble turnaround. Can give your opponent something to think about, but they're probably the most take-outable unit in the army, I reckon. You got a weapon team, which is just useful for 60 points. Having a breath weapon, why not? Anyone flies behind you, toast them. Death Engine with Bloody Carnage instead of the Lightning. I know, outrageous. I took Bloody Carnage.
Such a trendsetter.
I know. But I've previously taken 2 of these guys with Lightning and found them to be good. But this one, again, it is kind of hit and miss because, it can get charged and sometimes die, but usually it has 2 rallying around it, which gives it a fearless 18 and defense 5 instead of 4. So it actually sticks a lot more than the Lightning ones do. And I found that having that extra crushing strength and vicious on the charge just made it such a bigger threat. And I'd actually take it that way again. Like, I thought I wouldn't like it. Loved it. The bloody carnage. Highly recommend giving it a whirl. I mean, it does reduce your shooting
carnage.
threat. But if you've got enough shooting threat floating around anyway, just fucking bloody hell, carnage is the way to go, mate. So, lastly, I've got Warlock McGee, Bane Chant, and Inspiring Talisman. Bit of lightning, bit of Bane, bit of inspiration. Gotta love him. He's 110 points of legit. 130 with the talisman, actually, but whatever. We'll forget about that. Demon Spawn, flying and speed, absolutely godlike. He survived every single game of the tournament. He was the bomb, which is exactly the opposite of what he was a couple of weeks ago when I was using him like a noob, and he died in every game. Actually, come to think of it, over the last 9 games I've played with the Demon Spawn since Bensome painted him, every game that he's died, I've lost. So if he dies, that's bad.
Right, let's keep him alive.
Hot tip there, Skaven friends.
Stick him in a corner behind a tree.
And then, of course, the finest and most powerful element of the list, 3 fucking assassins. Woo!
This is a power play right here.
That's correct. I thought people would think, man, this list is too soft. So I threw in those 3 assassins to make sure they knew that I was the business.
Yeah, change the meta right there.
So, first game. Should we get straight into it?
Yeah, get it.
Banged on about that. I have trouble keeping things short. You know this about me. It is
yes,
what it is.
That's right.
Adam's story was Cancon Varangur day 1. This is a bloke from Queensland, lovely dude. He had painted his army in 3 weeks before the event, he was telling me, which is fucking insane. So it was super small army, but it was really nice looking, like, given the amount of time. Mine would look like just a blob of poop deck if I had that much time to paint an army. But he had a heap of Marauder cavalry and big, nasty things. I've never played Varangur before. Everything was big and fast and killy.
Yeah, that's
Varangur.
He
had 2, no infantry at all cavalry, few chariots and whatever.
Yep.
And 2 of the Bloodthirsters, which he was using as guys on Chimeras. I think that's
Chimeras.
what they're.
Yeah.
Chimeras, you could also call them. So he
If you want to
flew
be
at me, killed stuff, as you'd expect. I tried to distract him as much as possible on one flank with some crap units and try to take out his big units. This more or less worked, but I did need some KG die rolls, and it got down super close. It got down to turn 7, and then right at the end of turn 7, I sealed the deal and eliminated his last unit.
Got it
I
done.
got quite lucky by wavering his big flappy dudes on a couple of occasions. I say lucky, like they were like, just average rolls, nothing serious, because they had good 10 wounds on them or what have you. But they were wavered at key moments, which stopped them from just finishing me off, and it really limited their maneuverability. And I just distracted. He spent too many forces on one flank, I think, trying to take out the weak flank. So he was left with 3 units at the end, all the big, stompy, 5,000 point Chaos Knight kind of friends. And I was left with a similar number of units, but I had a lot more in the other's half, so I got up to 15-6. Is that the correct scoring?
Yep, that's it. Adds up to 21.
Adds up to 21. Bang, bang. So that was Adam, who's a lovely chap, would play again, happily. Scary as hell army. Not sure how I got away with that one, but all good. In round 2, what's the mission on this one?
So that one is Plunder.
Plunder, okay, yes. So this is a bunch of objectives in the middle, try to get the objectives, what have you. We were playing Chris Wilcox. This bloke knew his way around some Kings of War. You could tell he was one of those sort of veteran, played lots of games, knows what he's about, pretty slick moustache kind of characters. So he was playing Gobbos.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Gobbos, man. I find them so hard to beat. They're just so strong. So he was playing a heap of... He didn't have the million hordes of shooters because, of course, Clash of Kings 2019 made them irregular, which is a fantastic change. Love that, because I don't have 500 painted goblin archers. So the people that do, sorry about that, but for everyone else, thumbs up. He did nevertheless have 90% of the units in his army shooting, including 2 hordes of allied-in ogre shooters, which are a huge pain in the wing-wang. Tell you that much for free. Not a fan of those bros. So he shot the shit out of me, took most of my units off. I was just desperately fighting for the middle and trying to stand on the middle, and I couldn't even advance into his gun line because that just meant I walked off the objectives. So kind of a bad matchup for me with my almost entirely defense 4 or 3 army. Pretty bad matchup and a bad scenario situation, I can't help but think. But incredibly, turn 6, on a 4+ I win the game. So, or rather on a 1-3. So if the turn doesn't go to turn 7, then I'm on 3 objectives and he's on 2. Mainly due to some seriously jammy shenanigans pulled off by Demon Face. So I'm about to rock it out, and of course I rolled the die, rolled a 4, went to turn 7. And then Chris had an opportunity to win the game. All he needed to do was charge his ogre shooters in and claim the objective on a very badly wounded unit. But he forgot to charge. He immediately realised after he'd fired them, he's like, shit, should have charged them, bugger. So killed the unit, but then ended in a draw. So very lucky to get a draw out of that. Chris played really well, despite the fact that he made that minor mistake at the end that realistically cost him the game. But frankly, I played my absolute tits off to try to force the win on that one because that was not a good matchup for me. So getting a draw, pretty happy with that. Would play again. Not a fan of Gobbos. Moving on. Last game, day 1, I played Henry Lucan, who was a 12-year-old child, which is interesting. He was also a pretty good little player, man. Like, this guy had some serious gutzpah, and he was playing goblins again. However, his army was much less gunliney and more like how I think goblins should be, which is heaps of goblins and heaps of trolls.
Yep.
He also had some allied in Night Stalkers of some description. I'm not really sure what they were, but they were pretty killy dudes. I made a fairly major mistake in this game in that Henry and I both deployed pretty heavily on one flank and then sort of stood opposite each other on that bit of the table all game without marking the middle point. And this is the one where you have to get into the middle.
You kind of need to do that.
Toward the end of the game, look, I was aware that the middle point was over to the side a bit, but I sort of underestimated quite how far over it was, because if you can imagine, the whole right side of the table was pretty much absent of units. So I'm thinking, shit, I've screwed up a bit here. But nevertheless, had enough movement to get there. Was taking his army off more or less, definitely significantly ahead in the old attrition maneuver. But then in the last turn of the game, well, a couple of turns leading up to the end, he got some very, very cheeky waivers with his Gobbo Shaman, which was actually kind of hilarious. It was like 1 wound, 6/6 waiver, eat shit, with his little Gobbo who was like completely by himself on a flank, just like holding it up like a boss. So that was cool. Less cool was when he did it on my shock troops. So he has 5 points in the middle. I have 4. The shock troops represent 3, if we're talking unit strength here. So if I move them into the middle, I win 7-5. He did something approximating 5 wounds on them or something to that effect. 6/6 waiver. So now I can't move them into the middle. This is the 3rd time that game he'd rolled a 6/6 waiver. The other 2 were troublesome and they clogged up a flank a bit, but this one was absolute game breaking. So not only did my horde not get into the center, but also any other units behind them which could have got into the center couldn't move past them because they were in the way and they were a big chunky ass unit. Right. So I successfully lost to a 12-year-old child. Good job. 4-5. Go me.
Well done, Henry.
But full power to Henry. He was losing the game in the points department, and he did everything right to get it back, rolled the dice, and pulled it off. So fucking rock and roll.
Terrific.
So at the end of the day 1, I'm meeting Sellick in the bar with a slightly better record with win, loss, draw, as opposed to win and 2 losses. But at least he hadn't lost to a 12-year-old child. So he kind of had one up on me there.
I'm the real winner here.
Debatably. So yeah, day 1. Good times.
Good
well
job.
done, Henry.
Spoon, you're up. What did you bring?
Okay, I bought my Abyss for their final, or last hurrah.
Never again after this?
Not for a long time anyway.
Right.
So I took a Fire Legion formation, which is 2 Succubi troops, 2 regiments of Succubi, and a Temptress. I gave the Temptress Bane Chant. The rest of the units were naked. Gargoyle troop, a horde of tortured souls, regiment of horsemen with Pathfinder. I brought the despoilers along. I gave them haste, which is probably a bad move because it really was irrelevant pretty much all 6 games. Archfiend, gave him wings, lightning, healing brew. I forgot to use the healing brew pretty much every game. Ifrit with piercing. And the special character, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Temptress, the one that flies and gives D3 brutal. She was okay most games. But anyway, we'll move on.
What did your formation do? What does it give you?
It gives Vicious to all the Succubi, including the Temptress.
Okay.
And very inspiring to the Temptress.
Right. Okay.
So round 1, I played Jeffrey Trash, and I've never played Jeff before, Trashy. and I would like to play him again one day. Pretty much, it was a very quick game, cagey at the start. We pretty much deployed on opposite ends of the board, except I got stuck. Well, got my horsemen and tortured souls stuck on one side of the board, and I couldn't get them out of there because he'd pinned me down with a flyer. I couldn't just pivot and run away. But I tried to make him think a bit by moving my faster units around the flank and then back towards him. They basically beat me on unit strength. So much unit strength in that nature list that he was running.
Lots of hordes of fire elementals, regiments of earth elementals, dudes to heal them, and a couple of flying beasts.
Yeah, combine that with an expert player.
Yeah.
It's a legend of the game over here in Australia.
Got beaten 19-2 for that
So
one.
quite soundly, yeah.
You could say he gave you a vicious suck you bye-bye.
Oh, no.
Round 2 we've already been over with Sellick. Do I need to go over that again?
Please, in great detail, how did you lose?
I'll give you my key
Just
highlights.
joking, just go.
The time where my archfiend got wounded three times by archers, and then I said, he's wavered if you roll a double 6.
That's your
And that
mistake
happened.
right there.
Yep. And that pretty much sums up that game.
Lessons learned?
Should have been
Yep.
fearless, bro. Mistakes.
Round 3, I played Greg Johnson and his Brotherhood.
Yeah.
I think it was
I
Brotherhood.
think it was Brotherhood, yeah.
Basically, 3 hordes of knights, a couple of whatever the giants are called in there. What are they called?
Big guys.
Yeah, big guys. I don't know. I don't think they're giants or something.
3 hordes of knights, that's ridiculous. Do they all have Pathfinder somehow? You can't do that, can you?
One did.
Only one, well, of course one did. So the other 2 were just constantly waving their swords at the sky, complaining about rocks for the entire game.
And he had a couple of flyers as well. This one I thought was going to be a bit easier to win than what it actually was, and it turned out to be a better game than what I thought it was going to be easy to get around his hordes and get into the back or flanks of them. But he played it quite intelligent.
Forsaken Beast, that's it.
That's the one
monster.
I'm looking for. Yeah. He ended up managing to get... I was playing around in forests with my Succubi and I think it was my Tortured Souls. And he took a risk, which sort of brought the downfall of the Brotherhood, where he charged one of his Forsaken Beasts and 2 of his flyers into them, hoping to destroy them. And he fluffed his dice pretty much. And then that was the end of all 3 of those units. His knights basically got stuck in the middle due to terrain and whatever else. So he had a unit stuck behind 2 of his hordes. So 2 of his hordes were fighting it out. The other wasn't doing much at all.
They're expensive units. Just
Yeah.
naked, the Order of the Brotherhood hordes are 345.
Crikey.
Bear in mind that we both played 1 rule wrong each. The same rule, essentially. Just trying to complete a charge. But we both played it the same way for
Right. Okay.
one instance we had. So I offered to Greg he could do the charge if he wished, but he said just let it go. And we played it out. I ended up winning that one 19-2.
Ooh, big win.
And that was the end of day 1.
Awesome.
So not doing too well.
Nah.
Well, you got to win.
Yeah, I got to win.
Yes, still
Yeah, that's
1 and
something.
2.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all right, I guess.
Something.
Yeah. All right. What did I bring to the table? So I got the goblins finished just in time, so that's what I took. And we'll start off with the infantry. I've just taken basic goblins, Horde of Rabble, Regiment of Rabble. We also have Grogger's Goons, which are the special goblins. They're basically normal ones that fight a bit better. They hit on 4s instead of 5s, and they're Fearless 21 with Regen 5, and they're not yellow-bellied. We've also got some rubbish cav. We've got 2 troops of more beasts, so they're my squigs, and a regiment of Fleabag Riders with the Crystal Pendant, because of power choice. Then we have large cavalry. We've got Carriages of Carnage. That's the formation that has 2 mincers and the mincer mob, which is a regiment of mincers. Basically gives them +1 speed, so they go from 5 to 6. And I've given that mincer mob the Brew of Sharpness, because with the one game that I played, hitting on 4s, even though you've got a whole bunch of attacks, it just kind of whiffs a lot of the time. So hitting on 3s with 24 plus d6 attacks is pretty good. Horde of Trolls, Staying Stone, because of the large waver that they've got. Backed up by a bunch of monsters, a giant, a goblin blaster, a slasher, and a orange and the big rocks thrower. And dudes leading them, got a similar setup to you, Hugh. I've got the little hero on a mount with the Diadem of Dragonkind.
How legit is it?
Basically the same. Yeah, one of my favourites, always has been. Just a flag with the banner of Griffin on a little dude. Grogger Split Tooth, he's a living legend. He's like a goblin hero with 5 attacks and a bow, range 4, fearless 12 with regen 3, which I don't think he took 1 damage throughout the entire tournament.
Wow.
Basically, you take him because he's like 90 points or 95, and he allows you to re-roll any failed yellow-bellied roll once a turn, which can come in very handy. And then I also got 2 wizards, and they both got bank
So
chat.
basically you just say, the disadvantage my army has no longer exists.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sounds like a goblin army.
Yep.
But also a very big disadvantage with this army is that it's pretty rubbish, and I've got a regiment of Fleabag Riders with a Crystal Pendant.
Now, talk us through, come on, what's going on there?
This was a challenge. I wasn't going to get a second horde painted in time, but I had Goblin Riders, so they could be a mount, sure. But I've got 200 points. What do I do with 200 points? Oh, how about we take the regiment, and then we add a 50-point item to fill up the gap. So Sellick suggested if I run that unit in this list, he'll give me 2 pints. Just straight up. Take the rubbish unit, have a couple of drinks. Sure. Why not? That kind of tipped me over the line. And then there was a second challenge onto that. If that unit was able to rout a unit worth more, or 200 points or more, by themselves, I have to do the killing blow. They can't be as part of a combo charge. That's another pint for me. So I had this little mini game within my army that I was trying to accomplish throughout my games, which kind of hindered a few of my decisions, but the drink was the big factor there.
Free beer.
Seems
Yes.
well worth it. I feel like Sellick, I feel a bit let down. I should have at least got a pint per assassin, for God's sake.
No.
No, they're OP. We've already we've discussed this. All right. Okay, so as for the games, round 1 again. Invade, I was versing Glenn. I didn't write down the surname. Sorry, Glenn. I don't know if any of you other fellas can look that up on the app. But how did this go? He was playing elves, and I was looking to be getting tabled about turn 3. He was about to plow through my center line, and I couldn't really get around it. But his horde of trees that he had sitting in front of me that he was hoping to surge in to 1 unit, which kind of stops my entire line because I can't move around it. He didn't surge it. He forgot to do that. We went into combat when he remembered, and I think this is the biggest mistake of the game for him, because then that allowed me to get 2 flanks onto it as well as a front, because I could maneuver around that because of the space that he's left. So that happened. That got taken off, and his center crumbled instead.
Seems fair.
It was also funny. He threw a elf hero in front of my Mincer mob to try and stop it from hitting his archers. No, that didn't last very long, and then the archers died as well. So I think I've got a photo of the lone hero standing in front of this giant steamroller. So that was quite amusing visually.
It was Glenn Porritt as well.
There you go. Fine chap. Good game. Sorry about the luck. You'll see this as a trend in a lot of my games. My luck is pretty good.
19-2, you won that one?
Yeah, 19-2. Thank you. Round 2, Blunder, up against Jeff Trash. So, fresh from smacking Spoon into the ground, I faced Jeff. We've played once before, the previous Clash of Kings. That was also a very tight game. That was when I was playing Abyssal Dwarfs against his Dwarfs. Very cagey, but he pipped me over the line there. This one also very cagey. I think we were almost dead even with attrition. I think I might have been up by 30 points. So, yeah, that was pretty close. And the tokens, he had 3 to my 2. And we weren't sure if I could pick up, because with Plunder, you've got a couple of tokens, and some of them are worth 2 victory points instead of 1. And one of my Rebel Horde was sitting on the one worth 2, but they kept getting wavered by his regiment of stone dudes. He had nothing else there, because I killed them all. Luck. I don't know how that happened. So he was trying to take them off. It just wasn't happening. And then I asked Sellick and Spoon as I walked past, because Trash, he wasn't sure if a unit was wavered could pick up a token. You guys said that couldn't happen. Turns out you can.
Yep. We just didn't want you being Trashy.
Yeah, apparently. So because of that, Trashy picked me 3-2. Very close. Very good game. I like playing Trash. And
I think, mate, the lesson to be learnt there is...
don't listen to Sellick or Spoon.
Yeah. Well, that's one lesson that's
You should
pretty
have learnt
legitimate.
that years
but
ago.
Next time
Yeah.
you should just find the most experienced and, tactically effective general in your wargaming group
Myself.
That was
and ask
Trashy.
them the Kings of War rules. And that way, I would have told you, of course a wavered unit can pick up a token.
Hindsight.
Probably also would have said, wait, you can pick up the objectives in this mission? Because I genuinely didn't know that.
So I'm lining up a grudge with Jeff for the next Clash of Kings if I don't see him sooner. Because
You really are a sucker of punishment, don't you?
I don't know. It's a good game. It's always a good game. It's always close.
Cool, fair enough.
Next, we have round 3. It's that Dominate. Ben Leopold is my opponent this time. And he was taking elves as well. So 3 games, 2 elves so far. There's more of that coming in day 2. As with all the elves, there's like Horde of Drakon, there's a dude on a dragon, there's Sea Guard or archers and cavalry, and it's just all speed and shooting. So they're a pain in the neck. I don't know how I won this one either. He kind of hit me and bounced. And I hit him and didn't. And he was looking to... There was plenty of times there where he could have won, hit me in the flank or whatever, but I just kind of punched him in the kidney and wavered him with 1 or 2 wounds. And then he couldn't do anything about it.
It's almost like goblins are better than elves.
Yeah, apparently, going by these results. But it was very close, came down to a draw. Just because it's Dominate, you have to get dudes in the center. And I was getting tired, and so you just don't think very well. And if I moved my minces maybe like a half inch forward, then they would have been majority over the line and scored me a couple more points, giving me the win. But I didn't, and that's what happens. And it was a draw.
Bloody minces. Too busy mincing around instead of doing their job.
I know. It's so mincy.
Typical.
9-11 to him. Well done. Good to see you again. Haven't seen him in years. And so what does that put me on? A win, a loss, a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same as Hugh, I think, at that stage.
Yes, but slightly ahead, which puts after the 3 of us, and in fact Andrew as well, one of the homies we went down with, we all had a competition that whoever would finish top on day 1 got pints from everyone else.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So how did you go in your Fleabag competition? Did you manage to kill a unit?
Yeah. So in Ben's game, hang on, I'll go back to the first one. I was trying to get this challenge straight off. I just needed to get it out of the way, so I didn't have to worry about it. So I had Glenn's archer horde lined up. I charged from the flank with a mincer mob, or I could charge in the front with another horde. But instead, I decided to go out solo, charge in the rear with my Fleabag riders, and did like 4 damage and didn't do anything, so I couldn't take the mucker. But they succeeded in game 3 against Ben, able to catch a flank. So he charged a mincer, 9-11 nerve. You think he'd have it? No, didn't happen. So he did a couple of wounds, didn't rout him, leaving his flank exposed from 18 inches away, boom, into the flank of the Drakons, and did a decent amount. I think I did, 10, 11 wounds, and just 1 roll.
Awesome.
Take it off. 270 points or whatever.
Unwounded unit, was it?
Yes.
That's an achievement. Taking off unwounded Drakon riders, that's like actually a thing. You didn't just like go in against some unit that had 15 wounds in it already or something.
No, but 24 attacks on 4s, Thunder 1. So 4s and 4s. So I did enough, and it worked. And I was happy.
Sounds like a Bensome roll if ever I heard one.
That's the goblin luck for most of my game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, challenge complete. End of day 1. Yeah.
So end of day 1 with win-loss draw, and me, the only other one equaling you on that prestigious achievement of win-loss draw. You were ahead of me on points, so you managed to walk away with 7 pints. Quite a good day's work.
Yeah, and we tried to force you to have them all.
I'm slight of person. I don't have a fantastic constitution. I was half cut after the first half pint, so
He had to hit pause.
I was trying my best.
You put in a sterling effort in the end. You did have quite a few of them. I'm not sure if it was all 7, but you also polished off a cocktail to boot. So I think you're a merry bandit by the end of the evening.
Yeah, perfect setup for day 2. Feeling like roses.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you couldn't speak for the first couple hours on day 2. I was like, Bensome, are you all right?
You had people coming over asking if you were cold, and it was like 35 degrees.
I was
You were just ignoring me and stuff. And then I'm like,
I couldn't hear.
Bensome, can I get you anything? And you're like, juice! Out of you all morning. So I got your juice, and then you were all right a bit after that.
It slowly brought me back to life. Because I also have this, I've got hypersomnolence, so it makes me very tired and very hard to wake up. And Nordo, my roommate in the hotel, he had to go play his Epic tournament early, so he got up and left. And I was relying on him to wake me up. And so the only reason why I got up is because of the notification sounds from like Facebook Messenger. And so I just have a quick skim, bleary-eyed, feeling fantastic. Where's breakfast? Whenever, whatever. Just get coffee. Sellick bus is leaving at 8:15. And it's like 8 o'clock when I check my phone. So, oh my God. So I have to try and get up, get showered, and get ready in 15 minutes and make my way down. So yeah.
So you were a zombie. You were a zombie.
Needless to say, we thought our odds might be better on defeating you day 2 than they were on day 1.
Fantastic day 2 start. Anyway, how about we get into round 4, Sellick? What have we got?
Round 4. So I forget what the scenario was, but Bensome will fill that in. It was
Raise.
a raise. I actually had practiced this one a little bit. So it came up against Donald Neville and his undead.
Thing is, though, Sellick, what you're forgetting is that when you practice, you're meant to practice against other people.
That's right.
Because
not yourself.
otherwise, it's just like masturbation. It's, it's fun.
Just playing with yourself.
But it's,
Kings of War playing with
doesn't really
yourself.
make you any better.
Well, it seemed to have worked, whatever it was. Must be muscle memory, because I managed a slight win.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't. But Donald Neville came out and he had an undead army, and it was majority of it was infantry, and I thought that I would be able to outmaneuver him with the speed of my elves. I've got a lot of reliable attacks, so I should be able to put on decent damage with my archers as well as my spears to be able to take out most of his units pretty easily. So it started out a little bit funny because he came out with one of his skeleton hordes and surged at 11 inches. And it was just like, whoa, what the hell just happened? So that sort of ended.
Surge Bray.
It was, he was rolling like a mad snake at that point. But in the end, I managed to claw it all back. A little bit disappointed with my Drakon riders, so they charged in one of the skeleton hordes, did 15, 16 wounds, and I just couldn't break them, and just couldn't roll. I think I didn't need too many after the second round, and just couldn't get there. And by that stage, the Necromancer came over with heal 600, but he only rolls 4s. So managed to get him down from 16, 17 wounds, got him down to 2. Before my Drakons died.
That's handy.
Yeah, so I needed to break him in that one. So what I tried to do at that point was take down the other unit. So I combo charged that with my big block of spears, like my Kindred Tall Spears with the +1 to hit. So that's 30 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, and then I also charged in my troop of Palace Guard just to put down wounds. And so I managed to take that off in a turn, and at that point he was struggling for the objective. So I managed to burn all of my objectives, and then I just had to make sure I kept the middle. So I just had my spears there chilling in the middle. Pretty disappointed about my Kindred Lord on the dragon. So what is it, Lady Ilona? Is that her name? The vampire chick? Yep. So she took out single-handedly my dragon. Like just came in, slapped him around a little bit, did like 5 wounds here, 5 wounds there, and in the end I just couldn't take her. But managed to get everything else, got all my tokens. I think he got all of them apart from 1 token, and then I had the middle for the win. So that one there was a pretty decent fight there, 14-7 my way. Round 2, it was Bensome. What was the...
round 5, you mean? Ransack?
Ransack. So came up against Ben Leopold. So I think Bensome, you played him earlier.
Yep.
But that one there was an interesting battle because we had last played 5 years ago at Cancon. So it'd been many dice rolls between games.
Yeah, it's been out of the scene for a while.
He has. And he was a pretty good player back in the day in fantasy. So it's good to see him back. Hopefully he sticks with it and will take a lot of toys off in the future. But it was an elf off, and normally the elves versus elves normally a shooting off. But in the end, I managed to get up pretty highly on a 19-2 win on that one. And for my last game, round 6 was up against Fraser K. I'm not sure your last name there, Fraser. But here's another one from Queensland. And it was a tale of 2 games. The first half, I was rolling extremely well with my shooting.
Control scenario?
It was control. And up against dwarves, with Fraser's dwarves. And I was taking units off pretty reliably, losing a couple of wounds on my Drakon riders to his ogre shooters that he had. It seems to be the ally of choice still.
Yep.
But then the game sort of turned for him, I guess, on turn 2, where he shot all of his ogre shooters into my Drakons. They were already wounded pretty badly, and he didn't hit. I think he hit with 3 and then didn't wound with any. So that's... He needed 5s 18 dice, needed 5s and then 2s or 3s.
And nothing.
So as soon as they could do that, they got up and charged into them, took them off in a turn. And I was thinking, I'm going to have another big win here. Was quietly confident. And then Fraser, I think it was turn 4, he's just like, yeah, I'm done. But I'm going to have to go for some Hail Marys and see hopefully 1 or 2 of them can come off. And I was like, yeah, good. That's a good way of looking at it, Fraser, until all the Hail Marys paid off. So we're talking his king.
Hail Mary indeed.
Oh, it was like spoon playing Bud Bowl. It was terrible.
I was just about to say that.
I'm still in your lines. But he just came out, charged my spears, had 3 wounds on him, I think. Then he charged in, did 5 wounds with his king, and then just took him off in the last turn. It was just ridiculous. He was rolling out of his skin, and I just couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, ended up, I think that one king, like 90 points or whatever it is, took off my big hordes of spears, my Drakon riders, and my tree man. I think he ended up knocking off. It was just ridiculous.
That's some serious rolling.
Yeah, he dragged it back in pretty much 3 turns, just by charging individual characters out into 1 unit at a time. So technically I should have been fine, but I don't know how he did it. So we're talking...
Fucking goblins, man.
Fuck, no, these are dwarves, but same.
Fucking short
They're both
things.
small.
Nah, that's it. So yeah, just rolling things like need a 9, and I've got a reroll with Inspiring, so he rolls a 9 and then rolled a 12. And it's just like, But he did it 3 or 4 times in a row, and managed to drag it all the way back to a 10-10. To be honest, it was a pretty fun game. It just swung, and good game against Fraser, and hopefully he enjoyed it. So what was that? That was
6
2 wins. Yeah, that was my 6. So 2 wins and a draw in the last day. So a great day for me.
Much better.
Yeah, good return to form. Well played.
Thank you, sir.
So I guess that's me, day 2. Fantastic. Number 4, thanks to the excellent software that we were using on the website, Tabletop.to, that Matt Kroger had decided to use for the event, which is a great little bit of software where you can quite easily put in your results and what have you. We knew the rounds prior to the morning, and we were travelling, the 3 of us lads, with, amongst other people, one of our favourite companions, Andrew Whitehead, who is a new Kings of War player. He'd only probably played about half a dozen games prior to this event.
He played 1 game, and then, all right, I'm going to go to that tournament that you went to here, and then, okay, let's get into it, the Clash of Kings.
So he might be at very close to what is that, 7 games before he played this one, and I had drawn him for round 4. So we knew we were going up against one another in advance, so I had plenty of time to spike his drink the night before and just generally talk shit to him and just tell him about how much of a bunny he is and how much I was going to insert my 3 metal assassins right where the sun don't shine. So when it came to round 4, Andrew was deeply intimidated. There's not much he could really have done mentally to prepare himself for the match. I just destroyed him on so many levels. So I was pretty confident going into this one. He was borrowing Bensome's Ogres, which are scary and have beaten me before at Bensome's. But Bensome rolls like Bensome, and Andrew rolls like a normal human being. So I was nevertheless confident, even though I'd not beaten Bensome's Ogres before. So going into this match, I suppose I should mention how the assassins have gone so far, because they were the one that I haven't talked about apart from to say how OP they were.
Very little information about them so far.
They've been fucking fantastic, man. They just keep dodging between units, chucking their sharp stuff, doing a wound here, doing a wound there. They don't do that much independently, but they chip away, and I found that my opponents, because I had so many units, so many targets, they just were unable to realistically hit the assassins. And they spent a lot of time in forests and stuff, because I found that was a good way to use them. Because when you're -3 to attack from range due to being a individual with
such a deterrent
stealthy and in forest, you just don't attack them. Yeah. So I would regularly put them in front of units as well to protect flanks, and they kept holding. Because if you put them in a forest in front of a unit, they're -2 to hit because they also have ensnare. And they've got 10-12 nerve, which for Skaven for Ratkin, is not that bad, especially if you've got some cheeky rallying nearby, like perhaps in the unit whose flank you're trying to protect. All of a sudden you're sitting there, they're hitting on -2, they do a few wounds, and regularly would fail the nerve check. Quite often they'd get taken off in that semi-suicidal roll. Then every now and again, they'd just be fine. And then they just walk around the side of the unit, start throwing sharp stuff again, flank protected. Dunsky. So, very happy with the Assassin's performance overall. 3, ready to admit that might be a bit excessive, but they were...
But if they're so good, you got to take things in 3s.
That's right. They were all stars. They wouldn't let me take 13, so I had to stick with 3. Anyway, so I played Andrew Whitehead in round 4, our good mateski. We sort of rolled up the middle of each other, danced around a little bit, whatever else, chucked a few lightning bolts to no effect and that kind of thing. He went into the forest against the Blight on one flank. Classic mistake. And then also went in against the forest on the other flank with some assassins lurking in it. Another classic mistake. But went up the middle with everyone else. So those units sort of just beat against one another, doing 3 fists of fuck all on both flanks for most of the game, before eventually my rats won out. In the center, I sort of was presented with this charge opportunity after his big fat giant had gone through my lines with a cheeky 14-inch charge that I thought was out and I hadn't measured properly. He went through me and did a bit of wounds and ended up going back and killing the claw shots. And then later on in the game, charging one of my units in the rear. So that giant was an absolute boss. He did awesome. Yep. Despite getting almost completely nuked by his own boom wagon, which was funny.
Lessons learned.
Although the boom wagon did do heaps of damage to me as well. Like, man, boom wagons are my bane, and they did so much damage to me, including killing an assassin in one of the few assassin deaths over the course of the tournament. But well deserved on my part, I suppose. That assassin had failed to kill the boom wagon like 3 turns in a row, so he fucking deserved it. Anyway, right up the center, I went in with shock troops and the doom wheel against his big chunky defense 6 big smash hammer ogre friends. I'm not sure if you know what they're called.
Siege breakers.
Siege breakers. Yep. So I was ready to break their siege all over their asses with bloody crushing strength out the wazoo. Bit of a Bane chant. Happy days. Went through that unit, but that was really like, you know how it is sometimes in Kings of War where you've got the impetus of the charge.
Yeah.
And if you don't break them, you're going to get flanked on both flanks, and you're going to get your day's going to go really badly. If you do break them, you can then rotate those units so the flanks are no longer exposed. They've lost their center. Then you're in a good position. So, I mean, odds were definitely that I should break them, and I did. Didn't roll spectacularly, nothing like that. I've just rolled normal, whatever, got rid of them, turned my flanks, and then, was able to gradually take them apart. But I have to be said that Andrew rolled like an absolute fucking donkey this game. Like, he just couldn't, apart from his one heroic giant who, did good stuff, every other unit of his army repeatedly fluffed. Example, big fat bastard on the ogre chariot, that ogre character with the...
just a warlord?
With the meat stick. Yeah, that bastard, he went into an assassin, took him 4 turns to take him off.
What?
Ooh.
Which is ridiculous. He's got all these attacks. He would just go in and go like, 1 hit, no wounds. It would just be pathetic.
Hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s.
It's worth mentioning that Andrew was probably more hungover than everyone other than Bensome. So he was struggling, couldn't eat breakfast, that kind of stuff.
He needed juice.
Me and Spoon being the and Sellick, in fact, being the seasoned gentlemen that we
veterans
managed to bounce back pretty well. Although Spoon might tell you about how that might have affected his performance because he needs excuses and things. But me and Matt, no problem. We're on the horse. Needless to say, smashed Andrew, no dramas, 18-3. By far the most convincing game of the tournament. Mm-hmm. I think, but genuine, in all seriousness, like all jokes aside, die rolls were a big factor in that one. They really were. Okay. Next game, round 5. I played Tony Lee, my man Tony, who lives sort of in between Canberra and Melbourne, and he'd come down and I'd played him before because he played in the event a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I'd played him really recently. Lovely bloke. I want to have Tony's babies. I'm thinking about leaving my wife for him, but he's also married, so it seems unlikely that he'll take that one. But as far as middle-aged country living IT professionals go, got the hots for Tony pretty hard. Anyway, he was playing entirely centaurs, which is also part of the reason that Tony's fabulous, because centaurs are great.
Don't you want to do that as well? All centaurs?
I did, but now that he's wheeling around with them, I feel like I'm not going to be the show pony of the event anymore, especially since these are all Nagas, which is pretty hard to compete with. In any case, Tony played his ass off this game. He played so well. Last game I played him, I was able to beat him a bit more convincingly, perhaps, and it was sort of a close game, but he didn't play as well as he did this game. This game, he really, really had me up against the ropes. I went in with a demon, and then he kept chasing the demon around with this little centaur character and just poking him in the heels and stopping him from flying and just annoying him. And I had to keep walking him around units so he didn't get charged because I couldn't fly, obviously. So that was a clever tactic, and what it meant was that I was in this position where I had to either move my units up and try to commit to the fight, or just stand there at like 16.5 inches away, because he had like all these really fast units ready to hit me. Eventually I just went, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to have to push him up. You know, no guts, no glory. Up they went, charged in with everything, made the combo charges, made the die rolls that he needed to, took everything off, basically. Everything in the middle, so the centre just got nuked. But we'd sort of stared at one another and been cagey for long enough that all of my, like, crappy units, like my little units of warriors with regen and what have you, had been sitting on objectives and just chilling for most of the game. And they delayed for long enough with the assassins running around, chucking sharp stuff at things and rolling perhaps a little bit better than they should have, taken a couple of things off, whatever, along with old mate with the burning stick. So I was doing okay on the flanks, and he'd taken out the centre hard, and I was well behind on points because I'd lost both my blight and my shock troops in one charge. Then the demon was slowly trying to drag it back, and in the end, I was in a position where somehow, despite having been well behind on attrition, I was up on objectives, and I was again in the position where if it goes to turn 7, I'm going to lose. If it stays on turn 6, I'm going to win. I mean, to the point where one of the objectives, which was the deciding objective, worth 2 points, it was like me on 4, him on 3 or whatever, the demon's standing there on it with 2 massive units staring at him and a few wounds on him. If it goes to turn 7, he's going to get charged. So I have the choice. Do I fly over behind those units and, you know, give myself a chance in turn 7, or do I just stay on the objective and hope not to roll a 4+? So that's what I went for.
And
this time it paid off. I rolled a 1 or whatever, less than 4. So twice in the tournament, I was in that position. 1 out of 2 seems fair. So if both had failed, I would have probably been a bit jaded. But lucky to pull out a very cheeky win against my man Tony. It was a 13-8, which goes to show how much he was beating me on attrition. So I've gone 2 points down despite the win. So for those who don't know, Blackjack starts at 15-6. So Tony went on +2 and me in -2, despite having more objectives. Fantastic game against Tony. Yeah, 15... 14?
14.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
14-7.
Okay, I'll just lie a bit about the scoring system because I'm an expert. Moving on to round 6. Last game, Trevor Younghusband. This was the bloke with the little sticks instead of measuring tapes. Had a interesting army. They were all... tell me what they were, Sellick. What's that
They were
army called?
Basileans.
Basileans. I haven't played them before. Heaps of angels, heaps of knights, heaps of choppy dudes. It was a very impactful army, a bit like the Varangur army I played first game, in the sense that he had a lot of really, really hard hitting units. And if you got combo charged, and in fact, same with Tony, in fact, lots of like really outpacing me, lots of crushing strength kind of units, lots of thunderous, whatever else. If I didn't maneuver correctly, I was just going to get taken off in a similar way to what I did against Tony. I managed to bait him into a charge against an assassin, which the assassin's just kicking goals. So I took off one of his knight units. I got a little bit lucky with the other knight unit also baiting him with assassin by charging him in the flank, and then he countercharged the assassin, which meant that I had an extra turn of shooting and took that one off, just focus fired it. So both his knight units gone. But his flappy angels were causing me all kinds of grief, flying all over the battlefield, just constantly staying out of my charge arc. I'd turn to face him, ready to charge him. He'd flap off and bugger off into a different charge arc. I'd be able to chip it.
Just for the listeners, the flappy angel dudes that we've been talking about are the Aloha.
Yep.
Aloha, yeah.
Aloha?
Yeah, the Hawaiian characters. Yep. They were flying around and just being, troublesome. Not doing a heap of damage, but just constantly changing, staying out of my way. And my army does a lot of not a heap of shooting, just like little chips and bips and bops of wounds, which is a bit crap against the Basileans because then they heal 1 back each turn.
Iron Resolve,
so I was finding it hard to add up wounds, so I really needed to focus fire, which I did early, but then later in the game didn't have that opportunity. So Trevor played really well. I was really up early. He clawed it back quite a long way. We both killed almost all of both of our armies. Demon went off his tits and charged 2 units in the flank and took them off for about the 5th or 6th time in the event. And we ended up in the table quarters, dead even at turn 6, which is awesome. Roll for another turn. Is it going to be another turn? Yes, it is. Did some random maneuvering and went for some Hail Mary lightnings on these unkillable bloody angel characters who kept charging me in the rear and taking me off. This is the Elohai individual characters this time.
Yeah, the Elohai.
Still couldn't get through the Elohas, and they held it, and so we once again were even on points at the end last turn. So actually, super clutch game.
Right.
It was even on turn 6, even on turn 7. Trevor did really well to pull the game back, and played his ass off. In the end of the day, it was a hard fought game. Trevor, stand up guy, unusual fella. Unusual army for me on account of the fact that I haven't played it before. But, clawed it back beautifully to make it a dead all draw.
10-10.
So how did your day 2 go?
My day 2 was win-win draw.
Same as mine.
So much like
Very
Sellick.
nice.
I came back strong day 2, fueled by the power of alcohol, ready to defeat all my enemies and hear the lamentation of their women.
All right, Spoon, wake up.
I'm alive. Alright, so after a very disappointing day 2, we went to the bar, drank some beer, and I thought day 2 would be much better than day 1. Boy, was I wrong. Started game 1 against Christo, and this was the game that broke my whole weekend. It broke my Kings of War heart.
Sounds savage.
It was very savage. This game was looking the goods for me pretty much up until turn 4. I'd charged Elohai. He's playing the Basilean dudes as well. Charged Elohai in the flank with Tortured Souls, and funnily enough, fluffed my dice the first round. Thought, oh well, that'll be right, I'll just take him out next turn. So I try again, and I beat their nerve on the first roll, because they're inspiring very well. And I rolled like 4, so I rolled like 11 and then 4 for my tests.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. And the same thing essentially happened with his other Elohai unit. So my Ifrit was having a good old time trying to burn him up, so I beat him on the first roll, and the second roll I'd rolled 4. So it took between my Tortured Souls and my Ifrit 3 turns each to take out 2 hordes of Elohai. That wasn't great, but it all went pear-shaped when I thought I had the chance to win the game, when my Archfiend and Succubi unit, or one of my regiments, charged into, I can't remember what unit it was, one of his horde units of infantry. I'd done 20-something wounds, and of course...
Uh-oh.
Here it comes.
Oh god.
The double one that broke my heart.
See, you just got to plan for these things, though.
If I planned for double ones, I'd never fucking charge. So I lost pretty much somewhere around the 560-ish points mark worth of units on the 1-1 roll.
Not to mention not killing his unit and everything else in the center.
So pretty much as soon as that 1-1 was rolled, my Archfiend got charged by the unit that should have been dead. They'd already had Crushing 1 and then got Bane Chanted to Crushing 2. So that was the end of my Archfiend. And my poor Succubi unit that got charged in the flank by the other unit I should have been able to turn to face died as well. And that pretty much ended my center, and that was the end of that game. That one ended 18-3.
Yeah, and I do believe there was a lot of retirement talks at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had enough.
Announcing immediate retirement from Kings of War.
That's right. Local IGA sold out of tissues after that game.
Yeah, it was awful.
They got a lot of salt, though.
Yep.
True. I think they put it all on my steak the night before.
Yeah, true.
Either that or they sold it to you and I beat your ass at Blood Bowl.
Oh, shots fired.
Could be.
Alright, round 5. I played the same Glen as Ben did in the first day.
Elves?
Glen Porret, yeah. The
Glen
elves,
Porret.
yeah. This one ended up being a big win for me. He was kind of through his tree peeps at my Succubi side, and I just watched them eat them alive. Sounds weird, but the treatment didn't last long with Succubi Regiment with Bane Chant when it charged it in the flank.
Yeah, that's a lot of attacks.
Yeah. I've never seen all 4 units work together so well. That was first and last time, probably. And his shooting didn't do a lot. He hit his bolt throwers behind a hill for some reason. Not quite sure why. And
Come on, Glenn.
they weren't doing a whole heap. He sort of just... I think I just rolled over him too quickly. Once the Archfiend and Tortured Souls got in, he just didn't have enough to stop it. His 2 kings, I think, Elf Kings, Elf
Yep.
Prince, they sort of held a unit up for a while, but other than that, there was not a lot he could do in that round. Ended up being an 18-3.
So you win.
Did his Green Lady do anything?
No, I charged her with my Archfiend in an early turn and disordered her, and then she sort of just ran away. She did heal the king a couple of times. I think that's why I was held up for a while. I couldn't be bothered chasing around an individual character, so...
Defense 6.
Yeah, round 6, control. This is probably my most enjoyable game of the event, even though I got beat pretty hard.
Well, it's good to finish on a high.
Yeah, it's funny, like what was left on the table didn't look like... I'll just tell you the score now. It was a 16-5 loss for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't look like a 16-5 loss on the table. Highlight of the game was probably the fact that his 2 Twilight Kin dragons didn't charge once all game. So I stopped him charging for 6 turns. Oh, no, it was 7. Sorry. They captured the winning table section. That was the key for
Right.
him.
So he was just keeping them safe and then just fly over.
Well, he was trying to keep his line safe, and then once he realised that he needed to capture objectives, he flew them away.
Yep.
But very good game. Interesting watching 2 KG armies and who would make the first commitment. And of course, I made the first commitment. One side worked out for me and the other didn't. But good game. Would like to play him again one day. That was good fun. That's the end of my day 2. Oh, I should also mention that I had a wager on with you that ended really badly.
Ah, yes. Explain.
Ah, yes, of course.
So
We didn't mention this earlier. There was much ribbing on Saturday night about this wager on account of the fact that we were on very similar points. I think I was slightly ahead after day 1, but not by much.
you would have been ahead by a bit because I'd had 2 losses, big losses. But anyway,
It was achievable anyway for you to still get ahead.
if you hadn't guessed already, our group is very into drinking. So I had a wager on with you. Whoever finished higher got a slab of their choice.
At the end of the tournament.
What's a slab?
It's a slab of beer.
24 beers.
Spoon felt pretty confident after I finished like 62nd out of 66 or something last year, but
It was not to be. I lost a slab.
Oh yes.
24 cold beers.
Which brings us, I suppose, to how we came in the tournament overall. Is that correct?
No, I got to go through my stuff.
Oh, wait. Oh, well, I finished ahead of Spoon. I guess we already spoiled that. As if it wasn't obvious after that double 1 performance.
Okay, let's round this off. So, feeling like death and contemplating giving up the first round of day 2 because I couldn't feel my feet and I don't know if I could have even rolled dice properly. What did we have? Round 4, Raise. I was up against Matt Curtis. Guess what he was running? Elves. Yeah, that's the 3rd elf 4 games. And he was running the usual list of hordes of archers and Drakon and characters that fly and whatnot, and the Green Lady. Slightly different, he had 2 nobles on chariots. That's the distinct point there, I guess. Again, I thought I was going to lose this until right near the end. He was just plinking away. And like my army's speed 5, 6, and a couple of units that are a bit faster, but you don't move them faster because then they're just standing there with nothing, no support. So I kind of have to slowly inch my way forward, getting shot at until I'm in charge range. Mm-hmm. But because he's got an elite army and I have lots of dudes, you can't really cover all the bases. I kind of got lucky. On one flank, I had all my fast dudes, and then the rest of the army is just kind of sitting up, looking at tokens. He burns his pretty early, and then I kind of slog forward, take all the hits, and then kind of roll over him because he couldn't waver or rout. My little dudes didn't do much. The crystal pendant blew up and did a fair amount, I think 8. Hey! So that helped. Trolls could then finish up what it needed to do there. Boomwagon boomed.
That's good to see you had some success with that bloody pendant.
Yes, there was a little bit of success, so it wasn't a complete waste. It's about 25 points worth of success there. Minces didn't do a whole lot. The mob didn't do a whole lot. It was a slasher, MVP slasher, getting in there, helping out, chewing foes up. My catapult was strangely accurate in this game. I think half, if not 2/3 of the shots landed, which helped a lot.
Wow.
But poor Matt just couldn't take off what he needed to take off, and I did. So that ended up being a 15-6 win for me. That was a good game. And I was also glad that the round was over. It was very accommodating, because you could see I wasn't too crash hot, so he gave me some leeway, needed to take some breaks and offered water. Very gentlemanly opponent.
Was that the game that you did 48 wounds to the Drakons?
No, that's this game coming up, round 5, Ransack.
Oh, spoilers.
So, as you just mentioned, there were Drakons. Yes, I was playing another elves. That's 4 elves. I feel like elves are my bane. They just fly everywhere and shoot everything, and I can't catch them, so I just got to suck it up and then hope.
You say that, but aren't you on 3 out of 3 at this point against elves?
Goblin luck. My catapult, I think it landed every single time.
Sounds like bollocks to me. It sounds like you're just owning elves left and right.
It's 2 catapults onto his chariot, 11 damage or something in total, and take it off. You couldn't stop my catapult. I think the biggest thing here, again, goblin luck, is there was a juicy center. I don't have the speed, so I kind of inching my way forward into the center, hoping I can kind of survive a charge. He hit Grogger's goons with another dragon fella, the big tree dude, and Dragon Riders. 26 damage onto my goons, double one. So then I regen 12 of that damage back, and my Mincer mob was staring at the flank of his Dracons because he double one, and I was able to eat them with the 48 damage combined charge, and did not double one. So, yay me. He had a painful wizard that was alchemist cursed and everything, couldn't take off my giant, was trying real hard, but just didn't succeed there. And then, yeah, he kind of crumbled because of that double one, and I took the majority of the tokens.
So I really feel for you about this awful luck of having to play 4 elves. I mean,
Yeah, poor guy.
you lost to a non-elf opponent and then proceeded to beat all 4 elves, so it must have been really, really tough for you, bro.
It's the luck. It's all the luck. You don't believe it.
Oh, I do believe you.
But I can't move because my dudes don't move, so I'm just walking forward slowly, hoping for the best, and then the best happens, and then I win. So that was a 16-5 my way. I'm sorry, Craig. Craig S. I've got written down here.
No, Craig Smelly.
There we go.
Yeah, actual name. No, didn't make that up.
Fantastic opponent. And then round 6, last game, we had Andrew Goodman. Played him a couple of times. And then this is where my luck ran out and everything was against me. So he's running Abyssal Dwarfs, 3 hordes of Slave Orcs, 2 hordes of Grotesques, 2 Mortars, Rock Dudes, and half-breed characters with Basusu. So all the stuff that you'd think is good, because it is. But because his army was so wide with the hordes everywhere, and he could outpunch me, there was literally nothing I could do but try and force my way through.
Sounds a lot like your Chaos Dwarf army you're describing there.
Nah, I like really fast stuff. I take all the fast things.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
Yeah. I have like a regiment of orcs, or maybe a troop or 2, and then just all the fast things. I took the super best friends, all the living legends. What are you talking about? It's like 1,000 points of living legends.
Triggered.
Triggered.
But yeah, there's nothing I could do here. I just tried to conserve points at the end because I'd do a few wounds, he'd regen them back or heal them with his Ironcaster if they were Stonefellas, and I just couldn't convert. And then I lost. 3-18 his way for my final round.
Ooh. And you were coming something like 8th or 9th at this point, so this was...
Yeah, it's pretty high up.
Real potential to podium. I mean, you would have been, even with a win, I would have said, quite lucky to get 3rd place or what have you, but you never know. Like, you're in there with a chance if you manage to nuke this player with a far superior army.
And also...
Particularly if you go back to round 1, that could have given you an extra 7 points.
Round 2 against Jeff, yeah.
Round 2, sorry.
If only he was playing elves, that would have been way easier.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't have so much stuff then I might have had a chance.
Well, exactly.
But with control, you kind of have to get into the other side, but if he just runs up because he gets the first turn, then I can't get past the center line, and I just get eaten.
First turn on quite a lot of those missions are really tricky, because even though it's nice to have the last turn to knock off objectives if it's really close, having that first turn to move up and like effectively move the center line, 10 or 12 inches further forward in terms of how the distance between the 2 armies, you're in this position where all of a sudden you can either move everyone up and then give them the charge like across the board, which is devastating in Kings of War, or you can continue to sort of, bait and switch and move about, but then, again, the center line is already effectively so much further up the board that you're really pushing shit uphill in some cases.
Yep.
Depending on the matchup, of course.
So that was my day 2 wins and a loss. I would definitely change a couple of things about my army, unless pints are involved. But I love that Mincer mob. I'd like to get another one. Just the visual of that unit as well. Like Andrew was saying, it's really intimidating to look at, and so it gets focused a lot. And it's got big shield, but it's hard to hide a height 3 thing when you've got an army of infantry from getting shot in a flank, and then it's defense 4, and it's only got 14-16 nerve, so it disappears pretty quick. But it looks cool. So yeah, I'd like to take 2 of them.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone's ever modelled that as just a parade float with heaps of goblins on it, just like swanning around with umbrellas or something.
Very mincy.
Yeah. Well, it's good. So I'm sorry. I know you'd like to change your army, but I've told you time and time again, Bensome, you're just not allowed to take multiple crystal pendants, man. Like, it's just not allowed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It should be allowed.
I just got to take some more goblin blasters, boom wagons, because I only had the 1. I think that was my downfall. Another 2, 3 max.
So,
and a crystal pendant.
Given that you're the expert, would you recommend if I was to change my army to reduce the number of assassins, just for variety? Do you think 1 assassin crystal pendant worthwhile?
Yeah, it'd be pretty funny.
Done.
I think that's pretty worthwhile just to see that happen.
Watch out, Clash of Kings 2020.
You could also ally in another army that has assassins and get another one in there.
I'd recommend that.
That's a good idea, but non-rat armies, I don't know, they just rub me the wrong way. Like, they're all tailless and, like, you know, full of courage and all those other despicable things. So I'm going to stick with a ratkin for now, I guess. Unless, of course, someone shows me some sweet centaur assassin models. Then I might change my mind.
Yeah, that would look weird. The stealthy clippity clop.
Yeah, they seem like more like allies for the elf dwarves.
Yes. Aren't we going with cloud giants though?
No, I'm collecting elf dwarves after you've finished the cloud giants.
Okay, right, sure. Okay, so what was the tally? Where did everyone place?
The final tally. Do you want me to just whip through it?
Sure, whip it.
All right. So in 10th place, we've got Hugh and his Ratkins with a win, draw, loss,
That's
win,
52
win,
places
draw.
higher than last year.
Good job.
So that's right. There was 52 entrants that ended up playing all of the games. And down in 13th space, that's myself with the elves with a loss, win, win, draw. And then Bensome at 17th. Controversial after the Tracy...
we didn't know about that until just recently, though. So
No, that's okay. I wanted to make sure I was above you anyway. So Bensome and his goblins that really don't like elves. 17th with a win, loss, draw, win, loss. And then we slide down a little bit to Spoon there at 39th with his loss, win, loss. Playing his Abyssals. So, 10th, 13th, 17th, and 39th. Yeah.
That was okay.
Pretty good in that heat.
Given our pretty mediocre performance day one, I think like collectively we really came back hard day two. And who knows, maybe with one less double one, Spoon might have been able to as well. I mean, sometimes shit happens.
Okay, have we got anything else that we need to cover? Are we doing any other events that are coming up shortly?
Spoon's got a Blood Bowl tournament in Ballarat.
Yes, I was thinking about attending that one too. That one sounds interesting. That's at the end of February.
Yeah, I'm going to that. I've already entered.
Oh, okay. Better get my A into G and sign up then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a small tournament in March, just another MightCon over at House of War.
Slightly different?
Yep, it is slightly different. It's 1995 points, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so limiting the duplicates, so you can only take max of 2 instead of 3.
Yep, that's it.
Only 2 assassins? No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's not worth it then.
Does that mean like 2 regiments, but if you take like a regiment and a horde, is that 2 different units?
No, it's just the monsters, war machines, and heroes that you can't duplicate.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I think we shouldn't look too far ahead after that. So yeah, we've got those 2 events coming up. Okay, that was Clash of Kings Australia 2019. Definitely will be back as long as Matt's going to run it. He likes to take care of me. I thank him for that. And I guess we'll see you soon.
All right, thanks for having me, gentlemen. See you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
Yeah, direct misfire blowing up the game. Talking many war games is our aim. Rule books to advice, we cover it all. With the best tactics, we never fall. Bensome, Spoon, and Sellick are in the mix. Math hammer doesn't work, it's a trick. Follow along, stay up to date. Comment, like, subscribe today. Come check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Direct Misfire. If you want to shoot us an email, directmisfire@gmail.com.
Well, I don't know how you're going to edit that clusterfuck at the end there into something that makes sense, but good luck.